the first floor or a portion of the first floor with the drive-through for the treasurer's office. And that's something we may need to discuss. I don't know what the kind of upfit for electric lines, computer lines, communications. I don't know what that may or may not entail, and they may or may not buy it. So that's one of the things I don't have in here, but I would come to you at some point and say, hey, we'd like to take a look at this thing, and maybe sit down with buildings and property and full council or something like that and chat it up. Speaking to a few of the council people, and I really want to gauge your interest right now, but aeration system seems to be kind of a number one priority. We also have the northwest ditch portion, okay, to add in there. Taylor's Bottom was a $60,000 planning grant is in there, and that would be the beginning of Taylor's Bottom project. Christmas decorations. Previous mayor had asked for a Christmas tree. I think there had been some discussion at one point.
I think our electric department has asked for a Christmas tree.
Was it Dan? Oh, never mind. Scratch. Of course, we've asked the county to give us $50,000. They haven't adopted their budget, but we anticipate the county giving us $50,000 to finish the concession stand, school board, stuff like that, bleachers if we need them, any of those kind of extra costs. We talked a little bit, I think, in one of our last committee meetings about some playground equipment and improving playgrounds in town, and I'll be trying to figure out how to include that, okay, in playgrounds. Yes, sir?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, I mean, I'm not against that and why we talking about it, but that's gonna be a project that's kind of out there. Cause first place, you don't really have a stable playground.
Well, we don't have a stable playground. The playground we have is over in front of the baseball field, but it's
Right.
just a small kind of constricted area. If we want to have a bigger or a better playground, we need to find alternative locations, either on town property or in the west end or in the east end or north end or
Levi
whatever.
Strauss was the playground.
Pardon?
Levi Strauss was the playground.
I think there was a
upon time,
playground
yeah.
over there one time.
I remember.
Yeah, we're surplusing that property, correct?
I haven't planned on surplus. I was actually anticipating building one of these workforce houses on it.
That's what I thought we were gonna.
Yeah, it would be surplus ultimately for a house to be built on it. I think the playground needs some work, but I think our playground is certainly inadequate. And the requests I've get for better and more playground equipment, I think we need to work on that. And it's a less expensive project. It's not a budget buster right now that we can
Well,
do
you also
something.
need to, we can work with other nonprofits in town. I know, Rotary, speaking for the Rotary Club.
That's right.
Rotary Club has opportunities for grants and they could partner with stuff like that.
I would like to work on some playground stuff, not all in 1 year, maybe do it over phase 2 or 3 years and see what Chastity can find at DCR or Conservation Recreation, who may be able to provide some money, but work on that a little bit.
What did y'all ever come up with when y'all said something about that splash park?
Here's the problem with Splash Park.
It's so caustic. with
The construction is not the problem, but the hundreds of thousands of gallons of water and sewer that it consumes.
treating that water. Yeah.
You can dump it right back in the sewer. You can use it and put it in the sewer, and it greatly decreases your capital cost. But if you recirculate, then it becomes a different building code, and then you've got to also attach bathrooms and certain other building code obligations about fencing and all those kind of things. So if that's a priority, we can start putting monies aside for that. I kind of stopped because the cost of the water. And this is their number, not ours. And this is their salesperson who sells splash parks, came and met with Chastity and I. And it would be almost 25% of our total consumption in town would be dedicated to a splash park in the summer months, not the winter months.
But Phil, you know, you talking about that, and I'm sure everybody on town council over there where you put that volleyball net at that time. There's some space over there for some playground equipment. If you really, you might,
We
yeah.
can put some over there. It's a little low. I think water stands in certain spots over there. It's a little mushy back in there behind that
Right.
batting cage between there and there.
But then, what about down there, where, down in the field where we were talking about putting the soccer field?
Where somebody did a big donut in there this past
Oh,
week.
yeah, that thing was a big one.
Say, wasn't it?
Somebody did a big spin
On
out
Oak
in there.
Street. It was wet and they had a baseball game. I think playground planning also needs to depend on what we're gonna do with that property. I think there's some movement and discussion with the county and the school board about tearing down buildings, acquiring buildings, doing stuff, and I think that's gonna be a more logical space.
I think
The
our
problem
big,
with
our
the
big
old
issue has always
playground,
been location and
it's gotta
neighbors.
be super visible, and the playground
Right.
needs to be close to the street and well lit. Part of the reason we got rid of the old one, people were down there and they caught it on fire. and the number of diapers and
Beer bottles
and
and all
just a
that.
mess. So we need to get it in a visible location, starting over here at the ball field and maybe this one. Did you leave those out? Other capital stuff, we talked again about the bathrooms, Northwest Avenue ditch, and potentially demolition of school building.
You got a driveway at 1012 South Main to fix too.
What I'll use is potentially the cash from VDOT, but ultimately you're gonna have to replace that cash.
These ditches you talking about, these ditches,
I got the only one, didn't I?
but we can't do one and not do the other one. I mean, that's my strength about that, because everybody was sitting here that night when it was said, and nobody bucked.
I think the expectation for the Orange family
That's
is that
right.
ditch will be done. I think they.
I
do
mean,
have
we got to do what's right here now.
I can put that in there.
I don't think we voted.
Hey, what I'm saying is, when he made that announcement that night, nobody got up and said, including Eric, nobody said no. And when them people left this place, they were under the impression that they were gonna get their ditch done. Now, I'm saying, if you're gonna do that one on Northwest Avenue, you're gonna have to do the one down there, or you don't do either one. I'm telling you. I mean, you might want the input on that. Why would we do one and not do the other one? Because if you do one, you're going to have a whole bunch of problems if you don't do the other one. And like you say, the man that's sitting in that chair right there where you sitting in there made those people feel when they left out of here that night that they were going to get their project done.
But one thing I learned from that man that was sitting in his chair, and he said it quite often, was council speaks through their motions.
Right?
And if you didn't have a vote, you didn't have a motion and a vote, then council hadn't spoke. But I'm not saying that's y'all's decision on what you do with the ditches, but that's my only comment about that.
And
I wasn't here, wasn't at the meeting.
I think
and
the
will tell you-
expectation from the Arms is when they
I
left.
understand that.
it-
I understand
it
that.
was that.
And I'm not
likely
railing
was
for
gonna
either
happen.
one, but I'm just saying we have 3 new members of council. So I think it needs to go through the proper procedures if you're gonna spend that kind of money.
If I got the money, I'll let you guys know I got the money to do it. But there's a couple other things I just wanted to gauge tonight or today. Dan talked to you about an increase from Dominion to VEMA to the town, and the January estimate was about a 14.4% base increase, but an equivalent decrease in your fuel adjustment that should, if it holds, should basically give you a net even bill, okay, for the average consumer or customer in the town of Blackstone on electricity, okay? I have in here a 4% water increase and a 4% sewer increase, okay, to pay for East End, okay? Because we never raised any of the rates for East End. This would specifically pay. We had talked about, and I talked to the mayor about more because of this aeration system as well, kind of being in flux, and since we got an offer grant, I just included the 4%, okay? In addition, I've got to gauge y'all's interest for certain things, and then I know Eric's response is probably going to be negative, but is there any stomach for an increase in any meals tax or any property taxes at this time? And I'm not asking you for a commitment. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'd like to.
Don't say that I'm not for it. It's the fact that, is it necessary?
Well,
And in my opinion, doing a ditch or raising the taxes for a particular thing, such as ditches, no, I don't think that's a necessary project. Now, if it
That
comes
was
down to
segue.
where the Dan's electric department, all the lines are falling down into the sky, absolutely, you gotta do something. But
But there's been some talk about enhancing some of our tourism efforts and all that kind of stuff, and meals taxes an increase. I think a rough estimation, a 0.5% increase on meals tax would bring in about $50,000. Is that something you would,
and we're currently at
Consider
11. What are we currently?
6.5?
Well, but total, we're not allowed to charge over. What's the
I thought it
state
was
code?
7, but somebody told me not long ago, 7.5.
City of Richmond, 7.5.
I'd have to read the code to see if we can exceed that 7. They may have special permission or something, I don't know, but
What's Farmville at?
I don't know.
It's something, if we can, call around and just get it. Jake and I talked before, it's good to base, we don't wanna copy everybody. But if we are below average or if we're average, it's good to gauge where it is.
This would be specific to a purpose like tourism or.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind,
Uh-huh.
I see the town expanding and new things coming to the town all the time. And, you know, I would support an increase in the meals tax if the funds are maintained specifically for the betterment of Blackstone, tourism, little projects that the council would want to do.
Well, I mean, Miller mentions a very valid point. I deal with people that are coming to Blackstone every day, training, whether they're here for short term, long term, forever. But the complaint I always hear is there's nothing to do in Blackstone. And granted, not everything always falls on local government. It also falls on the private developers as well. But if the town can facilitate, even if it's a small amount, if it's $50,000 a year to help build a playground for places for kids to play or whatever it be,
That's what
I'm for that. Yes.
That's exactly what
I'm for that too.
suggesting.
I'm for that.
Where, it sounds like you already have something in mind for your $50,000.
Tourism enhancement. I don't have a specific project, you know.
Tourism
this is a
and
list
what?
of all the things council has mentioned in the past 12 months. Blacksmith shop. All kinds of stuff. So
Audio
it is a general tourism enhancement thing.
I think we
Better
know what to do
websites, better presence.
And that's the thing,
better
you can't always say
branding.
tourism is just what is out those two museums. Absolutely, that's a big component of it. But tourism in Blackstone is far greater than just that area. I mean,
One
it's,
thing that we've done recently that
We
Mary's
ain't
done,
arguing about
It's
this
everything.
blacksmith shop.
there's now a
last
bus
4
that
years.
goes downtown from, and I'll let Mary tell you a little more about it. Monday through Thursday.
Yeah, Monday through Thursday. We essentially just set up, a phone number and we've used 2 of our drivers, from our staff and, between the hours of 6 and 10 Thursday, or Monday through Thursday. They just call the number, and the inn is, pretty much where we pick up most of our stuff, but it's also offered, to a lot of the other short stay places as,
what's the numbers like? Are we getting, I mean, I'm not looking at us trying to recoup our money. It's trying to benefit the merchants downtown
You
and
get
the
it back in meals
restaurants.
tax is the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first week, I wanna say it was a little over 30 people that we had gotten,
Actually,
but
so-
just, this week so far, it's been like 20 or 20-some people at night, so it's doing a
That
lot
actually
better.
completely shocks me.
Is that the one that's
I was
going to
thinking
Wa-
you were
I thought
gonna
it
say
was-
2 to 3 a night or something.
Is that the one that goes to
We have about
Walmart
5
too?
people.
That's the one that goes.
Wherever they want to go.
Yeah, it goes all out Walmart and everywhere, right?
You wanna go to Subway, they'll take you to Subway. You wanna go to Walmart, we're in.
Alright, that's cool.
It's the difference in being on a route, because most people don't wanna ride a route for an hour to get back. So you can call, we'll pick you up, we use the town bus, and we'll take you downtown, we go to Mitchell's, we'll take you to Brew House, we'll take you to 101 on Main. You tell us where you wanna
That's
go.
actually shocking. I'm very grateful that's being
I
used.
am too, but I seen it though because I'll be out late at night and I'll be seeing that bus. It has people on
We
it.
haven't widely advertised it because we just don't want it to be an Uber for, hey, I need a ride over to my dentist appointment. That's what the bus system's for.
Yeah.
We want it to be for those 4 hours, for those sassy oriented folks that don't have vehicles, that we
Well, I'll
can
tell
take
you,
it
and
down.
I'll be the first one to say it. And
We're into it.
I've been taking pictures of it very frequently because a lot of people have said that sidewalks on the west side of South Main will never be traveled on. Well, I can tell you, the people that are staying at the Inn at Blackstone right now, all of them, and I say all of them, there's 10, 20, 30 people a day walking on the west side of Main Street using grass just to get to Walmart. So that sidewalk will be used whatever side it's on.
But they do have a bus option in the evenings that we can take them to Walmart and drop them off and go back and get them when they go.
I'm not trying to get in front of this committee or the entire council, but the talks that I've had with Philip, is I'd like to see this, if you do 0.5%, it's 50 grand, rough numbers, would be into a discretionary fund for the projects.
In
You know,
discretionary
so you,
funds.
in a discretionary
just so
fund
you
for
guys
council,
pick and choose.
to be able to pick and choose
Not
projects.
just council discretionary overall, but council discretionary
Tourism.
tourism.
Exactly. So that's what, that was my thought.
Again,
Where
a
we
meals
at?
tax,
Where are we at with this DVI?
a meals tax
tell you
is a more of an optional tax that if you don't wanna pay it, you don't go out to eat. And I can sympathize with
We're getting
restaurants, cause it seems like
We're getting there.
they get a disadvantage because everybody thinks they're higher. But I would much rather see a meals tax increase rather than a personal property tax
Personal
As hard
increase.
as it's been to get restaurants to come to town, I don't have the stomach for any kind of meals tax increase. I mean, we're trying to figure out how to recruit them here, not push them away.
Will you have,
It's a pass-through.
yeah, will
I mean,
you,
in theory, but it's still, if it costs the consumer so much to go out, if it's gonna cost me, even if it's just half, you know, it's more on top of my meal, which may say, hey, I'm gonna go out.
that's why it's good to know what other localities
I,
like.
I don't really think when you go out though, I don't really think that when you order that food, you don't really look at the meals tax. You don't. When you go to a restaurant, you stop and think, Dan, you look at your meals tax when you eat? No, you don't. But I'm serious.
We'd certainly like to collect as much of that per diem as we're entitled to.
It's 50 cents on $100, isn't that right? What is it, 50 cents on $100? 50 cents on $100, right?
What's that?
One half,
0.5%.
half a percent.
Yeah,
50 cents on $100.
What are you
on
saying?
a half.
Oh, on a bill.
On a
Oh,
half a percent.
Okay.
The increase.
On meal tax.
No, that's not terrible.
Well, I agree with Jake though. It's good to be able to compare to other localities so that if someone does come up and say, oh, well, I'm just gonna go eat at Farmville if meals tax in Blackstone's at 7%, well, you could go, well, Farmville's at 7.5%.
For
But
me,
by
it's
the
not
time
really
you
that.
drive to Farmville, you done ate up that 7.5%.
I can almost guarantee you that for restaurants thinking about coming to your area, I'd be hard pressed to think that they're not looking at your meals tax numbers. I really, I mean, you're creating a business model, I mean, they've gotta be looking at them even though it's a pass-through.
The only reason I'm a champion for it is, and I don't mean to be ugly, but this is the tax that the majority is paid by non-residents.
Transient tax.
Okay, so that's why,
Philip,
that's why
will
I'm,
you have a
you know.
good idea this year, and I'm not saying by no means that whatever increases we've seen in lodging tax, electric, all that, to, again, we're gonna be conservative, but will you have a good idea, being it's been a year, to know what our increase would be? Say, if we don't do the meals tax increase, is it something that the town could stomach saying that, all right, that comes out of lodging tax, or whatever it be?
You see, you have increase in lodging tax.
Huh?
There's an increase in lodging tax here townwide, and it's not as much as we had hoped, but it's certainly nothing that we had already budgeted or planned on spending. But you could, between everybody with Airbnb that we're catching up on and finding, and Bernice got that, and what's going on at the inn, because not every one of these fast seat folks pays because they either stay more than 30 days or it's.
Quite a few of them are actually not, I mean, eligible.
I would say it's at least half and half that are paying and not paying.
Standing where I'm at, Patriot Square.
Which is over 30 days,
Yeah.
so they don't have
So they're not
that's what
paying.
I'm saying, yeah.
So we collect on probably half the rooms, I would say, based on how many rooms are up at Fast or at the inn versus the other ones that are around. And we're seeing about, including Airbnb, about 10 grand a month in increased lodging tax. So there is, but I'm conservative with it. I don't put the full amount in, and you can see my revenue projections are going to have some increase, but not a full increase. Last item, personal property tax. The county currently, and if you remember, there was a stink up with the Commissioner of Revenue's office last year about the 60% reduction that they or savings that they were providing. And the Commissioner of Revenue said it should have been at 35%. There was a big discussion at the county level. We equalized. We stayed at 60% the full deduction, and we dropped our rate to 72 cents. And I think we're going to be pretty close to the $115,000 that we expected. So when I started the budget, we were at 98, and there's still, you're doing stops and things. So we're going to be, our 72 cents is going to be pretty close on an equalization basis. I don't know what the county's going to do, but they dropped to 45% last year. And Christy Hudson sent me some documentation. It's not complete enough to do anything. What I would present to you, and we're talking not a lot of money, even by doing this, our total collection for personal property in the town was only $115,000, whereas meals tax is well over $700,000, if that tells you anything, okay? Real estate taxes are under $400,000. So we're talking a small amount of money, but I'm going to start watching what the county's doing closer and start to parallel some of that on that personal property as far as the deduction. But that doesn't mean you have to equalize and drop the rate any further. Okay.
Just going through here, looking, you obviously have in this preliminary budget, HR consulting services, $10,000. Obviously, we'll look at that, figure out.
I'll do it. I gotta find somebody to do
Do we
it.
wanna do it in-house, do we wanna do a service, what?
Right.
Been going on for 3 years.
Yeah, tree account expenditures, what is that, $3,400?
Pardon?
Tree account expenditures,
What page, Mr.
Who you
Chairman?
got?
page 2 of 30. Almost towards the bottom, 5, 6 rows up. You had none budgeted, we've expended $3,350, and you're asking for $3,350.
Tree account expenses? Oh, we can zero that.
Okay, I didn't know what it was, I didn't know if it was something we
No,
were.
it was just.
Obviously,
he
it's
was
not a
looking at
large
it, he
number,
just
right?
put 1 year and probably move it over.
Okay,
Without any specific plan.
gotcha.
That could drop down to it.
I mean, I obviously haven't gone through all
Let's
this,
just,
but
let's just hope the General Assembly do something about the machines so we can get some taxes off of them too.
The gaming machine?
Yeah.
The gaming machines, I just don't know, because it's been court cases
Yeah.
back and forth, and so if it happens, we collected about $4,500 of it, and I think we're gonna pay a invoice using a portion of it this month.
But you know, the reason why I think something's gonna be done is because I have sit there and watched people play those machines. They hit for $4,000. They don't sign nothing. All that money is cash.
That's right.
So.
And there may be something coming,
I feel almost surely it is because they not these localities are not gonna keep on letting you do that.
alright,
so,
any other? Brittany, you have anything?
There's I think you talked to Jennifer Daniel about, like a compensation study for sanitation, street and electric.
That's
in
included.
here? That's
Yeah, I said,
okay, I just wanted to make sure you saw it.
Alright,
good job, guys, y'all do a great job, and everything's very smooth and wonderful, and I'm very blessed to have good people that I work for and work with.
alright, I don't see, I mean, out of all the requests, I really don't see anything
Again-
crazy. Water and sewer's always scary.
That's, yeah, heads up, everything you touch is in the hundreds of
Well, I
thousands
mean,
of
the
dollars.
picket aspect is frightening. If we just had Blackstone, but all that picket,
You know, we have a commitment to Fort Pickett that we'll start replacing sewer out there.
using the funds that they pay.
And we've got the first year's of funds together, and we gotta keep on putting the money in, keep on putting the money in, keep on. But that's never gonna be one of those things where we pay cash for the whole project. That's gonna be one of them things where you borrow the money and use that $200,000 annually to service the
Are they
debt.
using the water that was anticipated?
Hmm?
Are they using the water and that was anticipated to help meet those numbers that we had budgeted for?
Gosh, you know, I can tell you I know that to be fact, but I don't know, but their bill went up appreciably this month. The bill was pretty high.
Is that, I don't know where I'd heard it, but someone had said that, I don't know if it was you.
They had a big bill this
somebody
past month.
Said that it was fairly low compared to what we were anticipating.
We were under. I think Jennifer, the last spreadsheet that Jennifer Hardy did for last year, through 11 months, we were at 150,000, so we didn't quite make $200,000. But this last month Ed is now doing the bills, and that joker was over $100,000, and they paid it, their utility bill. They had a big boy.
Is it because of a lot of training going on, or?
No, I'll tell you the truth, I think the methodology is more correct now.
Gotcha.
And we've been working with Michael to make sure we're not doing something that's displeasing to DPW out there, but
Everything's above board,
yeah.
obviously.
they want to, and they're paying a higher rate, and they're paying 1 for 1. We're paying for that I&I now, but they paid a higher rate, and we're setting most of that aside for construction projects. But we're going to have to start replacing some more stuff here in the next few years.
A lot of hydrants probably got flooded and tested as well.
That's why they're not working. God, we don't want to do that.
All right, we do have a request to go into closed session, so do I get a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second,
Is that how that works?
is it? Okay,
Well, I don't know.
all right, is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
As
well,
far as
then
I
at this-
know.
At this time, we will, go into closed
Let
session
me-
for the purpose of
Personnel.
personnel
Town
and town
manager.
administration.